It's the Rome Show!
With your hosts, Andrew Romanella.
I don't think I'm good enough in this spot based on my own personal mental health, so I can't continue.
The first problem is with the owner of the Carolina Panthers. Okay, you're an idiot. Seriously, you're an idiot.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of The Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com, Dingo TV channel 217, YouTube, Twitter, live. I'm your host, Andrew Romanella. I got you till about 7:30 and change, and boy, do we have some fun stuff to talk about today, including the New York Jetropolitans looking like the New York Jetropolitans that they thought they would look like, with Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. Shohei Ohtani is pretty much already cementing himself as a surefire Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball. He did something historic last night that we have to dive into. And then, of course, we have to get you ready for the weekend coming up. Besides the fact that we have a great slate of college football starting tonight, rolling into Saturday, another fantastic slate of NFL games on Sunday, some huge series going on in Major League Baseball, and then, which you might not have even realized because you're in this time period of all of these great sports happening, the WNBA postseason starts on Sunday. And you know what's funny? I tell you all of that, and we still didn't even mention the fact that the National Hockey League is back. They are in training camp, and we are one flip of the page away from throwing ice hockey into the mix, and then we are another moment away from throwing basketball into the mix. So this middle of September to the beginning of October time period for sports is beautiful. And if you're somebody like me that's got sports ADD, which essentially means you love watching sports, but there are a lot of moments where once one sport goes to a commercial, you're immediately flipping to another sport. And when you have a moment like this, where you have baseball's important, football's always important week by week, you have the postseason of the WNBA coming into fruition, and we get a chance to see Asia Wilson, Caitlin Clark, the Las Vegas Aces three-peat. You get all that in one weekend? That makes me a very excited person. Let's start, though, with Shohei Ohtani becoming the first person in the history of Major League Baseball to hit 50 home runs and to steal 50 bases. Shohei not only became the first player to hit 50 and steal 50, he did it on a night when he went 3 homers and 2 stolen bases. So not only did he do it, he did it in kind of the most unbelievable Shohei Ohtani fashion. And we're going to watch the 3-4 important plays from last night's demolishing of the Miami Marlins. So here's Shohei making history.
2 for 4. Runners go. Throw to third is right there, but somehow Ohtani got under the tag.
Somehow.
And decoy on the move. Stolen base. Make it 51. 0-1. That is a high fly ball, deep right field. Number 49.
Looked like the slider didn't get in far enough, and Shohei, the type of athlete he is, he's probably thinking
for history. On a 1-2, Ohtani sends one in the air. The other way. Back it goes. Gone! A new balance. Here's the swing that does it. with an opposite field shot. He pulls one to the upper tank, and then he sends one the other way. His 50th home run.
He went back-to-back on himself. Both at bats.
Together. Certainly smiling. We all are watching this guy. Oh, my gosh! Shohei Ohtani! The greatest day in baseball history! This is not real life.
I mean, are you serious? And now listen, not everybody might be a baseball fan. And so to give you some context into what just went on. So first off, stealing bases in Major League Baseball is hard enough, okay? Between the fact that the catcher's arms are great, they've only gotten better over time, and base stealing took a downturn over the last 15 to 20 years in Major League Baseball, where no one was really trying to steal bases. The fact of the matter is, baseball has had a roller coaster of a history, and a roller coaster of a history from the standpoint of the way the game is played. When baseball was in its infancy and baseball began to grow in the early 1900s to the place that we knew it probably in the 50s and the 60s, okay, right before the precipice of basketball and football really taking a jump into the eyes of the people, okay? Baseball was a sport of simplicity, okay? That guy pitched it. We're just trying to hit it and get onto those bases and then use any tools we can to get that guy over to that base, to that base, to this base to score one run. Well, over time, naturally, things changed, and they changed heavily in the steroid era. And Barry Bonds is somebody that you could look at having had the opportunity to potentially do this prior to them changing the rules, which is hit 50 homers and steal 50 bases. You don't have a guy that runs fast that usually has power enough to hit 50, okay? So then you get into the steroid era, and there's not even the tool really anymore of trying to steal bases, okay? You are just trying to hit nukes. You're trying to be as strong as possible and hit balls as far as possible. And then that brings us into today, okay, where the game maybe is less steroid based, but the foundation of what happened in the 1995 to 2005 range, the 1990 to 2005-10 range, what happened in that 15 or 20 year span propelled the game into such a different world. Then we turn the game into kind of the same concept. We are going to try and throw as hard as possible. We don't care how long a pitcher goes. We want as many of those pitcher guys as possible throwing as hard as possible. And we believe that if we can be as efficient as possible when it comes to hitting the baseball, and we don't give up outs by getting thrown out, so homers and less running, it could be really good. Well, then we hit the era of boring AF baseball. And we know what we're talking about because we are in the moment of trying to do things to fix that. We induce the pitch clock. You're not allowed multiple amounts of timeouts if you're a hitter at the plate. You only have a certain amount of time. And then they introduce bigger bases, and you can only throw over a certain amount of times if you're a pitcher, okay? So it opens up the gates to the running game in baseball, the excitement in baseball to come back beyond just hitting really far homers and throwing the ball really hard. And those things still exist. But I think what this year for Shohei does, and some other people too, like go around the league. And my thought process was, last week of the regular season, I'm going to rank my top 5 players, just overall, pitcher, hitter, reliever, doesn't matter, from the 2024 season. So we as a group, because the baseball season's long, we as a group can go back and kind of see some of the greatness that's gone on this year. And this greatness from Shohei is historic. But the question on the bottom reigns true. Do you think Shohei's 50 for 50 milestone is impressive, or do the new rules ruin it? And I've heard a lot of that debate. Well, hey, it's a lot easier to steal bases now when you know that guy can only pick off a certain amount of time. And it's a lot easier to steal bases when you've gained 3 inches on the width and the circumference of the base. And you might not think that matters, but how many plays are a fingertip getting in there? Is the sliding mitt big enough? Did he stay on the base by a hair, a fingernail, the tip of his shoe? So many plays are determined like that. So you can't tell me that adding that size and changing the dynamic of that guy can only pick me off X amount of times, whereas in the olden days, he could just keep throwing over, right? If somebody was getting out there to steal a base, he could literally just pick off and pick off and pick off. So before I get into football, I'll say this about Shohei's feet. I do think it's impressive. I do think that the new rules have added to it, but I'm not going to devalue what Shohei did just because of the new rules. Oh, and the fact that pitchers leading into the new rule were not holding runners on enough. They didn't care about the stolen base enough. It was a weird place to be. Well, hopefully what Shohei did this year is a snapshot in one player of what the league is hoping for moving forward. They're praying that 13 different dudes find a way to hit 50 and steal 50. That means 100 of Shohei's, whatever it is, let's just call it 500 for sake of conversation. 100 of Shohei's 500 at bats had something exciting for the fans. That's the way baseball looks at it. Okay, if one of every 5 at bats, he either hits a homer or steals a base, for the most part, every single night a person comes to a game that Shohei's playing in, they're going to see something cool. And that is what baseball has missed. Because in football, I can come watch the quarterback. I know who he is. I zone in on that guy, and that guy is that guy, right? 16 times, 17 times now a year. That's it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to see that guy. Basketball. Their marketing is centered around the player, not the team. Steph Curry, LeBron, KD. I'm going to know these dudes. And they play 4 times a week, maybe 3 times a week. I'm going to find time to watch those dudes. But in baseball, it's not the case. 162 games, and there could be 3 games I go to where one, don't even worry about the offense for a second. I might not even get to see the best pitcher on the team. If I'm a Pirates fan, I got 30 to 40 opportunities to see Paul Skeens pitch over 162 chances. That's really hard for a fan to swallow, spending all that money. So if on the offensive side of the ball, we can say, all right, well, listen, if our best player on the team hits 35 homers, steals 40 bases, hits 25 doubles, and has 50 singles, that's over 150 things. If there's 162 games, now we're starting to trend towards, if I come to a game, I might have a better opportunity of seeing my favorite baseball player do something. And I think that's what Shohei's record does. Do I think there's a little devalue there because the rules? Of course, but it's a bigger picture here. It's less about Shohei doing it for history and more about he might have just opened the door for just a slightly more exciting game because now there's a plateau no one ever knew existed before that now exists that other people believe is obtainable. Write us in on the show. The Rome Show 1, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, Facebook, all of the social media sites, The Rome Show 1, or write in live on the show, and we'll try and get back to you as best as we can. I also want to give you a quick Major League Baseball update heading into Friday night and Saturday slate. Some big games over the weekend, starting with the Metropolitans and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Mets beat the Phillies 10-6. It got a little dicey here for a minute. The Mets were up 2, then the Phillies tied, then they were up 2 again. Then the Phillies added 1. Then the Mets added 5. They exploded. But then it was They were plateaued at 9 for a little bit, and it started to get a little scary when the Phillies scored 3. But nonetheless, the Mets tacked on a run. Luis Severino was huge. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 7 Ks. And the Mets offense explodes for 10 runs again. And that is the 3rd straight game the Mets offense has combined for 10 runs or more. That is huge for the Metropolitans as they go down this stretch. And that is huge for the Mets because they have one of the hardest schedules in Major League Baseball to finish the season, and they are still holding on to that second wild card spot by a tiebreaker with the Diamondbacks, who also won last night 5-1 over the Brew Crew. The Brewers solidified the NL Central title, so I think they were drinking a lot the night before. We'll see if they show up today. The Braves shellacked the Reds 15-3. Chris Sale, I believe he should be the NL Cy Young Award winner this year. I don't know if anyone's taken note at what Chris Sale is doing, but he's in Cy Young form, and he might be the reason the Braves are still in this race. He's 18-3 with a 2.38 ERA. He's got 225 strikeouts. Ridiculous. And he's got a whip, walks, plus hits per inning pitched of 1.01. So for every inning he throws, essentially one guy gets on base. And then he only gives up 2.3 runs per 9 innings. That is insanely impressive. Chris Sale doing it for the Braves. Matt Olson and Mike Harris Jr. both had 2 home runs in this game. The Braves combined for 18 hits and 6 home runs. They open a series against the Marlins tonight. The Guardians in the American League, they won in 10 against the Twinsies. So that was huge because now the Twins are tied with the Tigers, who didn't even play last night for the last wild card spot. So the trending the Tigers have done, if you listen to yesterday's episode, if not the Rome Show podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we talked about how good the Tigers have been since the All-Star break, 4th best team. 11 hits last night for the Guardians. Andres Jimenez with the walk-off. He also went 3 for 5 in this game. And then the Mariners defeated the Yankees so they can keep themselves 2 games back of the aforementioned Tigers. Logan Gilbert was good in this game. 5.1 innings pitched, 6 hits, 7 Ks, 2 earned runs to keep the Yankees at bay and give the Mariners a big victory as they try to stay in this race. It is going to be so much fun in Major League Baseball when we get back on the show Monday. Enjoy the games this weekend because you're going to see a lot of shifting before you know exactly who is in the postseason. I know who's with us every single day, and it's the Royal Romo Sapiens, and we thank you. So stay with us here, okay? Because we're going to come back, talk Jets versus Patriots, and then we are going to make some picks going into Friday night before we head into the weekend. Andrew Romanella, 12ouncesports.com, Dingo TV channel 217, The Rome Show. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right. At 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, Click on your bet and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Yeah. The Rome Show here, 12ouncesports.com. Dingo TV, channel 217. If you want to watch the show live again, any social media site, just find it, The Rome Show 1. Or just watch Dingo TV, channel 217 at noon. I mean, all of the things. All the things were happening for the Jetropolitans last night. I got to tell you, that was easily the best game I think I've seen out of this football team in at least the last 3 years underneath Robert Saleh. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you right now that all of the people that are my friends that are Jets fans are probably not necessarily that happy if they weren't a fan of Robert Saleh. And I know a lot of people that were kind of getting tired of what was going on in New York. Regardless of what went on with injuries at the quarterback position each of the last 2 years, there are a lot of people that probably don't believe in this coach. And I think last night was a great opportunity for Saleh, for Hackettstown or whatever the guy's name is, Hackettsburger, the offensive coordinator, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson a little bit, just the whole operation, the defense of the New York Jets to show people that they know exactly what they are doing. It is actually a good situation. It's a good coach, good quarterback, good offensive line, good defense, good defensive line, can play a full game, right? 4 quarters of football, good quarterback play, like all of the things you saw last night from the Jets. We haven't seen them combined in the first 2 weeks. We've seen a flash here and a flash there. And one of my favorite radio heads said it the best yesterday. September football, man. Like, it's going to take a minute for teams to get to where they should be. So in week 3 this weekend, yesterday, it should look significantly better than 2-1. But by the time we get to 5 and 6, that's what you believe the Jets should be for the rest of the year. And last night versus now, I get it, slightly down Patriots team, missing 2 offensive linemen. I understand all of those things. But if you're a good football team, that's what you should do to the New England Patriots, missing all of those things. And they did just that. And the offense looked elite. And the defensive line was tremendous. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers throws for 281, excuse me. He had 27 completions in that, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And then it was a really nice running back room for the Jetropolitans. Breland Allen, 11 carries. Breece Hall, 16 carries. Allen had 55 yards. Hall had 54 plus a tutty. And then, as you know, Breece Hall usually adds some yards through the air, which he did. He had 29 and Allen added 13. They combined for 7 receptions. So if you think about it, your running back room touches the football on the ground 27 times, then touches the football in the air 7 times. So 34 times you got to deal with Breece Hall or Braylon Allen. And both of them are really good and strong runners and different type of runners. So it's really hard to get into a flow of defense when every 2 downs, that's switching. They can catch it out of the backfield. They can juke you. They can run you over. They can do it all. Really good running back room. But what I see the most impressive out of this game was that wide receiver room. We've talked about this a little bit on this show. But when we left yesterday, we told you there are going to be a few intangibles in this game that are going to make it whether or not the Jets could beat the Patriots on this night or the Patriots could beat the Jets. The first one was Ramondre Stevenson. I took, and this is just a quick little teaser, I took him 3 different times last night for yards and for attempts. And you know what? I really learned again why Vegas is Vegas. I was like, these yards are really low for what he's run for. Well, Vegas is Vegas for a reason, and it makes sense because he finished with 6 carries for 23 yards. An atrocious running game for the Patriots, who had the top 5 running game in the league after the first 2 weekends of the year. So that was our first intangible. What happens there comparative to the Jets defense, who had given up 701 total yards coming into this game and gave up a total of 198 yards last night. So super, super impressive for the Jets. The second intangible we talked about was Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson had a great game last night, okay? And it's about time that it started to look like what it should look like. He was 5 receptions, only 33 yards from the yardage standpoint, but he was tied on the team for the amount of receptions, and he had a touchdown, which I think is also important. He had 9 targets, also the most on the team, okay? And what I also liked about this attack is it was spread around. So your best player looked like your best player to a degree, or it looked like you were trying to feed your best player in terms of Garrett Wilson, but you had contributions from your tight end. 5 receptions, 93 yards. You had contributions from a second and a third wide receiver. Both Allen Lazard and Mike Williams had 3 receptions. Lazard, 48 yards and a TD. Mike Williams with 34 yards. That's the spreading around of the football that you need if you're Aaron Rodgers, if you're Garrett Wilson, and if you're this offense. Because now look at all of the names I just threw out there that touched the football 5 or more times, but had an effect with touching the football 5 or more times. Both your running backs, your quarterback, who's a Hall of Famer, your tight end, and your number 1 receiver. That's what you need. And your number 2 receiver, Mike Williams, could be a number 1 receiver on some teams in the NFL. Has some really good numbers underneath his belt. It's an offense that can fly, pun intended. And they looked really good last night. And then to finish it off, you had some of your best players attacking the quarterback. The Jets had 7 total sacks last night, with 8 different players recording a half sack or more. I would say that if I'm a team looking at a complete football game, what the Jets did last night was really good. The only thing I got to say on the Patriots side is now they have a quarterback controversy. They put Drake May in late in the game. I thought that was a pretty good move. I like where the heads were at of the Patriots. What is the point of continuing Jacoby Brissett here? We're down by 21. But usually once you do something like that, it means you're there for the rest of time. And I don't know if that's necessarily fair for Jacoby Brissett either, because the Patriots, I thought, were going to be a 3-13 football team, and they still might be. But those first 2 weeks gave me the feeling they have something cooking there. And it's crazy to go from that to in week 3, you would bench him and he'd never play again. That is just always so drastic to me. If that is the case, then I don't believe that this team was ever going to do more than have 2 good weeks to open the season, and they could never compete, which is probably what we all thought anyways. But is it a facade, what we've seen to this point? The Jets kind of proved it might have been last night. I'm going to prove to you that I still believe I can make you bananas on the banana circuit. So let's get our daily potassium in, people. Okay, so I had Ramondre Stevenson. I had him at over 64.5 rushing yards yesterday, and I had him at over 16.5 carries. Neither of those happened, which is disturbing. I had the under at 38.5. That happened, so we got a check there. And then I told you a side one that we're not counting towards the record, but I had the Pats at +6, which was wrong. So for the 3 I counted, we're 1 and 2, so we're 91 and 77. I'm really sorry about that for the people. Let's go to our real music in here for the actual picks. Tonight we're going to college football. Okay, Syracuse has played really good football to date. They're 2-0. They've gotten themselves into a ranked situation because they beat a ranked Georgia Tech team last night, 31-28, who embarrassed a Florida State team in Limerick, Ireland, the first weekend of the year. So Cuse is playing good football. They are playing Stanford. Stanford has not been that good since Christian McCaffrey graduated and Harbaugh left the institution. So I don't trust Stanford to be able to fly across the country to Syracuse, New York, and be able to beat Syracuse. I also don't think they're going to be able to score enough points to cover the spread. So I'm taking Syracuse -8.5.
inside the newly named dome that I can't say is the Carrier Dome anymore because it's not, but I have no idea what the new name is. So give me Cuse moving to 3. And, I've been riding the Tigers train. And I think in fairness to me, people that listen to this show regularly know I've ridden the Tigers train all year long, at least all second half of the year long. We've picked them a bunch while they've been streaking and playing good baseball. I have them coming off the break, starting a series with the Orioles, and I have them winning. Yes, the Orioles. So give me the Tigers over the Orioles straight up on the banana line, and then the Braves, who demolished the Reds last night, get to play the Marlins, who got demolished 20-6 by the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani last night. I think Ohtani would have beaten the Marlins by himself last night. So give me the Braves and the Marlins game to go over 8.5 runs. So Cuse minus 8.5, Braves and Marlins over 8.5 runs, and Tigers money line versus the Orioles. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, how you finish the Rome Show on a Friday. I urge you to really, really enjoy your weekend. Follow us on social media for more picks and other things. We'll be back on Monday. You out there, be electric. I'm Andrew Romanella saying peace.
Thank you for listening.